And also with regard to what Hashim said, he said that Jesus never claimed to be God, but Jesus never actually claimed to be a prophet either. There's no one verse. Can Hashim show anyone a sentence where Jesus said, I am a prophet? So if he did not say that, therefore we have to then reassess the criteria. If someone doesn't say something, does that prove that they are not what? How do we assess what they are?
Right. This might be another David is not a prophet moment, you know. Be careful.
No, it's not, because his criteria was, did Jesus say I'm God? So I'm saying if the criteria is you have to explicitly say something, then we should use that same level of understanding to say, did Jesus claim in those very words and say, I am a prophet?
Okay. If we show you that he is a prophet, then what?
Well, bring the evidence and then you'll prove me wrong.
You want the word prophet, or you want the actual concept clearly described?
Not the concept. I said, because what Christians try to do, we try to bring a concept. Muslims say, for example, Zakir Naik and all the rest, Ahmadi, that where did Jesus say, I am God? And I've heard Hashim say that several times. So therefore, if, this is the criteria, then we have to then look at where Jesus said, I am a prophet.
Hashim mentioned a verse in Mark chapter 6, verse 4. Yeah,
where Jesus said a prophet is not sorry, say it again, Hashim. A prophet is not
excluded from his hometown, or something like that, which is also in Luke chapter 4. Yeah,
but that is not an explicit statement. For example, if
I'm just saying that do you take such a verse, right, in Mark, and another verse in Luke in chapter 4, I think verse 24,
yes,
right, in your understanding, okay, is that Jesus that's speaking here about himself?
Yeah, implied.
No, okay, hold on. Is he speaking about himself?
Yes, he's implying that is.
So for you, the word prophet, or the Greek word prophetess, in conjunction with Jesus Christ, is supposed by Jesus Christ himself, with his own words, in the New Testament corpus.
But it's not explicitly said. For example, if I said to you,
but hold on. Sorry. Before you say it's not
leopard doesn't change its spots, I could argue I'm not a leopard, and this is the argument Muslims bring, because they say, where did?
But hold on. What's explicit is entirely subjective, with all due respect, because
it's cultural understanding. It's
but here now,
I'm going to kill two birds with one stone.
Let me just make one point. Let me just make one point, right? An explicit statement is effective in so much as the end user, in this case yourself or me, are able to identify it as explicit. So for the reason why you said, look, in Mark chapter 6 verse 4 and Luke chapter 4 verse 24, when Jesus says that a prophet is not to be kicked out of his own hometown, and in Luke 4:24 it says that whenever a prophet comes to a town, he's always dispelled from it. If that is, in your understanding, referential to Jesus Christ, and in fact not just to your understanding and my understanding, but the understanding of, I think, almost all the commentators that have ever commentated on this biblical passage, then for me, I think suffice it for me to say that that's an explicit statement that Jesus Christ was speaking about himself in the third person. What you're confusing, I think here, you're confusing a third person reference with an implicit one. Just because I speak about myself in the third person, it doesn't mean that becomes implicit all of a sudden. I can speak about myself in the third person, but in very explicit terms. So, for example, if I speak to my children and I say, your father will not tolerate this, okay? I'm not speaking about anybody else except for me, unless, of course, my children have some kind of doubt as to who their father is, which I can assure you, they don't. So the point I'm making to you, Paperboy, is that the first thing you said, very confidently, very stridently, I would even go audaciously in this, and I was waiting to see what you're going to come up with, really and truly. You said, get us one explicit statement. That's what you said. You said, give me one explicit statement that Jesus Christ says about himself that he's a prophet. And I've given you two. You accepted that means that Jesus is a prophet, and yet you're still not acknowledging the fact that there's there's a world of difference between Jesus calling himself a prophet in the biblical discourse, which make it impossible for exegetes to interpret it otherwise, versus Jesus supposedly referring to himself in divine terms, which you haven't shown us anything close to. Mark chapter 6 verse 4.
So when we see Jesus call himself the Alpha and Omega, a title for God, how should we interpret that?
I think we should interpret that in the same light as we interpret it with Melchizedek, who unanimously, according to biblical exegetes, is not.
You said a minute ago,
sorry, not God.
if someone makes a
And he also referred to the Alpha and
statement
Omega.
about themselves, then we take that as an explicit statement. So I'm saying Melchizedek was not spoken by Jesus. That was written by someone else. Jesus said, I am the Alpha and Omega. So now,
But sorry,
we understand that.
Paperboy, what you've done here is you've done exactly what you've accused us of doing, which is that you said you set up a criterion, okay, wherein which all of the variables don't line up with it. So in other words, you've said the criterion is got to be an explicit statement. By the way,
No,
just to be
that is an argument Muslims bring to the park every weekend. Where did
yeah, that's exactly right. So just to be clear, my position on the word explicit and implicit, from a linguistic perspective, it's only explicit in so much as it's acknowledged as explicit from the reader. Because if I say to my father, my son, do this and don't do that, they'll know how explicit it is, right? Linguists can, because these words implicit and explicit may completely descope the discussion. What to you could be implicit in many contexts is to me very explicit, right? So, but the thing is, we have no difference of opinion here. We both agree that Mark chapters number 6, verse number 4, and Luke chapter number 4, verse number 24, where Jesus, in no uncertain terms, refers to himself as a prophet, is in fact referential to Jesus being a prophet. Therefore, according to you and me, according to you and me, we say that Jesus explicitly said about himself that he was a prophet, whereas he did not do the same thing. Okay, he did not do the same thing with him being God. And now it's for you to bring something as explicit to me and you, right? As Mark chapter number 6, verse number 4, about Jesus' divinity. And if you do that, then there's no discussion anymore. Then we can both agree. Otherwise, I think you've shot yourself in the foot, with all due respect, Paperboy. You know why? I'll tell you why you shot yourself in the foot, Paperboy. I'll be honest with you right now, yeah? Because you started all audaciousness and all confidence and all stridency. You came on this platform, guns blazing, saying, you know what I mean? You said, there's give me one. You challenged us. You challenged us, brother. Yeah, you challenged us. You came on this platform and you said, bring me one explicit statement that says that Jesus is a prophet. Then me and you say, okay, Mark chapter 6, verse 4, Luke chapter 4, verse 24 says Jesus is a prophet. Now where are you going? I want to see you acknowledge that Jesus did say, which you already did, and now retract and apologize, for the fact that you came so confidently, all guns blazing, and you have no answer for me right now in my presence.
Well, you seem to have.
Guys,
no, let Paperboy respond, please.
Well, this is the problem. If Jesus spoke Aramaic, who would have been the best person to understood his words and cultural references?
His mother.
Same question. If Jesus was an Aramaic speaker,
and he would have said Allah in Aramaic for God.
Who would have
Paperboy, I think your arguments are paper thin, and you're talking about flakes. I think your arguments are flaky. Look, at the end of the day, you had the audacity to come on this thing and tell us, hold on. You had the audacity to challenge us, yes? To challenge us on this platform after all these weeks, week after week, you come to spit a corner and you're acting like a hard man trying to pick on the lay Muslim. You come on the Muslim show, you get humiliated. Have you got any response? You said Jesus was give me one verse that says Jesus was a prophet. We've got you 2 verses. You acknowledge that. Now tell me where's the same kind of verse, equivalent verse for him being a god. Come on.
I told you Jesus called himself the Alpha and Omega, a title.
Yeah, so did Melchizedek. So Melchizedek is a god. You believe in 2 gods, 3 gods, 5 gods, 4 gods. How many gods do you believe?
Melchizedek calls himself the Alpha and Omega.
I think we're done here, Naveed. I think he just
He's
shooting blanks. He's shooting blanks.